You probably think, that the internet was built to make information equal,
Right.
to completely break down class barriers. Like you log on, you have the whole world at your fingertips, and suddenly you have a voice.
Yeah, the great equalizer.
Exactly. You think the digital age gave the underdog this massive megaphone.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but that's the great modern myth. I mean, the fundamental promise of the digital age was supposed to be a leveling of the playing field.
Right.
But when you actually measure it, when you look at the real mechanics of power, that promise just completely evaporates.
And that's exactly why we're here today. Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to open up a stack of sources that will, frankly, just completely shatter that illusion.
It really is a slap in the face.
It is. We are looking at the cold, hard data today, and the truly terrifying part of this data. It's not, the flood of fake news. It isn't even the exhaustion of information overload. It's how the internet is invisibly just completely silently stripping away the very last chips ordinary people have at the political bargaining table.
We are looking at a massive structural redistribution of power, and it's happening right out in the open.
Yeah.
But it's concealed. It's hidden right behind this smokescreen of technological prosperity.
This is like the ultimate anti-common sense revelation. I mean, the prosperity of technology is hiding this brutal truth. The freer the information flows, the more insignificant you actually become.
Precisely.
But wait, let's unpack this premise, because it's heavy. We are basically saying to the listener right now that giving everyone a global megaphone actually made the working class mute.
I know, it sounds impossible until you see the math. I mean,
Yeah.
we are diving into this landmark UK study. It's led by three economists, Gavassa, Nardotto, and Tommaso Viletti.
Okay.
And it is this rigorous, completely undeniable look at local elections and local government policies.
Right.
And it answers one terrifying question. Like, why, in an age of infinite information, are everyday people losing their leverage?
So let's bring this down to street level for a second. Why are young, everyday people getting pushed to the margins of society? Because if you ask anyone on the street, they have a ready-made answer, right?
Oh, absolutely. They blame the economy.
Yeah, they blame inflation, they blame the housing market or, globalization.
Right. But according to this research, they are missing the ghost in the machine entirely. I mean, the real reason is literally hiding inside a broadband cable.
That is wild.
It's a completely counterintuitive and honestly cruel paradox. Because when we isolate the timeline and the data, we see this visual clash of two opposing forces.
Okay, paint that picture for us.
So imagine a graph in your mind. It is the absolute definition of a mathematical divergence. On one side of the graph, you have broadband penetration.
Internet arriving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that curve is skyrocketing. I mean, it's a beautiful, almost vertical line of technological progress.
The future just arriving directly into our living rooms. The glow of the router in the dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And here's the catch. On the exact same graph, you track voter turnout for local elections.
Oh, man.
And as the broadband line shoots up, the voter turnout line just falls off a cliff.
Wait, really?
Yeah. They form this massive, glaring fissure shape. The gap is undeniable, and honestly, the trajectory is violent.
This is such a cold, hard realization, but let me challenge this for a second. Because you are telling me that getting high-speed internet installed in your house, getting access to, every political manifesto, every news site, every debate transcript in the world, that actually makes you care less about what happens outside your front door.
The data leaves no room for comfort here.
Yeah.
I mean, the more developed the network became in a given community, the more silent the citizens of that community became.
That's insane.
The internet did not wake the masses up. It acted as this highly effective anesthetic. It literally put them to sleep.
Okay, I see the paradox on the graph. The lines cross. But, as anyone who has taken a basic stats class knows, you can draw two lines on a graph and claim they're connected.
Correlation is not causation.
Right. Like people wear more shorts in the summer, people eat more ice cream in the summer. Ice cream does not cause people to wear shorts.
Exactly.
So how do we know this isn't just some massive historical coincidence?
Well, that is the million-dollar question. And that is where we really meet our three researchers. Because Gavassa, Nardotto, and Viletti, they aren't just, boring academics.
Right.
They operate much more like forensic data detectives. They absolutely refused to accept a surface-level narrative.
Which is great, because we aren't doing philosophy today. We aren't just sitting here debating the soul of the internet.
No. They didn't just want to spot a trend. They wanted to isolate the absolute, undeniable mechanism. We are looking at hardcore proof.
Yeah.
No guessing.
Just raw, calculated facts about how human behavior bends around technology.
Right. So their core mission was incredibly ambitious. They set out to see exactly how the internet rewrites government decisions and fractures social classes.
Okay.
And to do this, they ignored national primetime politics.
Really? Why?
Because national politics are just too noisy. I mean, they're filled with celebrities and culture wars and endless spin.
Yeah, that makes sense. Too many variables.
Exactly. So instead, the researchers looked at local elections in the UK, the absolute ground floor of democracy.
The local councils, like the people who actually fix the potholes, fund the local schools, decide where the affordable housing goes.
The nuts and bolts of survival.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hey.
because local politicians, at their core, are survival machines. They are purely rational actors.
Right.
They only respond to who is watching them. If you watch them, they serve you. If you look away, they redirect your resources to someone who is actually paying attention.
And the researchers realized that the internet fundamentally changed who was watching. Okay, but to understand how the politicians reacted to this shift, we really first have to appreciate the sheer speed of this invisible web taking over.
Oh, it was incredibly fast.
Because this was not like a slow generational transition, right? This wasn't like the adoption of the printing press over centuries.
No, it was a sudden systemic shock. I mean, in just a few short years, this new technology swallowed an entire country like a nervous system.
Oh.
You thought you were plugging into the whole world. You thought you were expanding your horizon. Actually, the data suggests you were being perfectly corralled into a digital comfort zone.
Let's look at the timeline, because the numbers in the study are staggering. We are looking at the window from 2003 to 2011.
Just 8 years.
8 years. In historical terms, that is literally a blink of an eye. In 2003, household broadband in the UK was at a measly 6%.
Almost nobody had it.
Right. It was restricted to the early adopters, the tech enthusiasts, the people willing to deal with, the friction of early networks.
Right, the dial-up holdovers.
Exactly. But by 2011, that number shot up to a staggering 74%.
It's massive.
In just 8 years, 3/4 of an entire nation got wired in with high-speed connections. And the timeline of this technological explosion perfectly matches the timeline of political apathy setting in.
It induces a kind of creeping dread when you see it mapped out chronologically. I mean, the starting gun of the information explosion was the exact same starting gun for the death of political engagement.
It's like a sci-fi movie. It's like someone turned on a giant global amusement park with neon lights and endless dopamine.
Yeah.
And everyone just wandered inside, stared at the attractions, and completely forgot there was a real world outside the gates that needed maintaining.
The amusement park analogy is incredibly accurate, but, skeptics will immediately push back here.
Sure.
A sociologist might say, look, human behavior is messy. The 2000s had the financial crash, they had foreign wars. Maybe people just got disillusioned with the system.
Right. They'd say you cannot prove a physical wire coming into a brick house caused a human being to stop caring about their local town council.
Exactly. That is the ultimate hurdle.
Yeah.
Human behavior is just too tangled up in variables to prove anything perfectly.
So how do you prove the internet actually causes apathy? How do you separate the router from, the 2008 financial crisis or from the local job market?
You prove it by ignoring the humans entirely.
Wait, what?
You stop looking at the messy sociological variables, and instead, you look up at the sky.
Okay, this is the moment in the research that completely floored me.
It's brilliant.
It is. This is the aha moment where the methodology just turns into absolute genius. It is a mind-bending, undeniable act of nature proving a fatal human flaw.
The researchers knew they needed an act of God. I mean, in data science, to prove causality,
Yeah.
you need a randomized variable.
Right.
They needed something that randomly slowed down the internet in some towns, but sped it up in others.
And crucially, this variable had to be completely disconnected from human wealth or intelligence or culture.
Exactly. And they found their randomized variable in the rain.
The rain, that is just, it's so crazy.
Yes, the weather patterns over the United Kingdom. So to understand this, you have to look at the physical infrastructure.
Yep.
To late broadband networks back in the 2000s, telecom companies did not use fiber optics. They relied on the existing network of copper wires.
Right, the old telephone lines.
That was the physical backbone of the early internet. But copper wires have a mortal enemy.
Water.
Exactly. Water. When it rains heavily, the ground saturates. Water seeps into the underground network. It oxidizes the copper.
Oh, wow.
It changes the capacitance of the lines, it causes faults, it causes connection drops, and most importantly, it raises the cost of digging new lines and maintaining old ones to astronomical levels for the telecom companies.
Because mud is expensive to trench.
Mud is very expensive to trench.
So let's look at this from the perspective of a telecom executive, right?
Yeah.
You are running a rational business. You look at a map of the UK.
Huh.
You have limited funds to lay this new broadband network.
Right.
You are going to look at the rainy, waterlogged regions and say, we are absolutely not building our network there first. The gear will flood. The trenching is too hard.
We will build in the dry areas first and leave the rainy towns for last.
Exactly. And that is the brilliance of this study. Places that rained more got broadband slower.
It was a flawless, randomized, natural experiment. I mean, the rain didn't care if a town was rich or poor.
No.
It didn't care if the town was highly educated or mostly high school dropouts. By comparing a heat map of the 2006 cumulative rainfall in the UK with a map of broadband rollout, the correlation is absolutely perfect.
It violently strips away all the human excuses. You can no longer claim a town stopped voting because they were too poor to care about politics
All right.
or too uneducated to understand the issues. The only structural difference in this specific data set was the weather.
Yes. Bad weather literally protected some towns from getting addicted to the internet as quickly as the dry towns.
And what happened in those rainy towns?
They kept voting. The citizens stayed engaged. The local democracy remained healthy. The local papers survived a little bit longer.
That is incredible.
The rain proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt. The weather isolated the variable. The internet directly caused the apathy.
A thunderstorm was the only thing guarding the democratic process.
Literally.
Bad weather acted as a shield against digital pacification. Okay, so the causality is proven. The internet definitely caused the drop in engagement. But we need to quantify the damage. Exactly how many votes vanished into this digital void?
Well, this is where the sheer scale of the displacement becomes terrifying. You might intuitively think that, better networks mean people are at least reading more news.
Right, maybe caring more about national affairs, so the drop shouldn't be that bad.
The reality check is freezing cold. The mathematical relationship between broadband and voter turnout is brutal.
Let's go through the exact math. How steep is the drop?
For every single 1 percentage point increase in household broadband in a community, voter turnout violently drops by 0.21 percentage points.
Wait, let's scale that up so we can really visualize it. 1% more internet equals roughly 0.5% less democracy.
Yes.
That sounds like a tiny fraction until you remember the macro timeline we talked about.
Exactly. Remember the explosion we mapped out earlier? A 68% jump in broadband over 8 years.
Yeah.
Multiply that 68% by 0.21. You are looking at a massive structural collapse in the bedrock of voter turnout.
You are talking about thousands upon thousands of everyday citizens. Plugging in a router effectively snipped their vocal cords.
It's the absolute opposite of common sense.
It really is. The tool built for connection became a weapon of civic isolation.
And here is where the narrative takes a much darker turn. Because if this avalanche of disappearing votes was spread evenly across society, it would be concerning,
Sure.
but it wasn't. That is the next terrifying layer of this data. We have to ask the mechanical question, who exactly was silenced? Was everyone equally distracted by the screams?
And the answer is no. This is where the structural inequality really reveals itself. This avalanche was highly discriminatory.
Completely.
The elites are still running the game. The people who abandon their power are the exact people who desperately need to use the political system to change their fate.
It is an absolute tragedy of inequality. The drop in voting was surgically targeted by demographics.
Okay, let's look at the education divide.
Right. So when broadband arrived in a town, the turnout for low education groups plunged by an incredible 172% for every single point of internet adoption.
Nearly 0.75% drop for every 1% increase in internet.
It's a total freefall.
But what about the highly educated groups? The people with university degrees?
Barely affected at all.
You're kidding.
No, their voting habits remained largely intact. They got the internet and they just kept showing up to the polls.
Unbelievable.
And the generational divide is just as stark. Youth voting dropped by 0.65%. Senior citizen voting, it only dropped by a marginal 0.20%.
So the internet essentially handed the elites and the older generations a permanent VIP pass to run the country unchallenged.
Yeah.
While the working class, the less educated, and the youth just voluntarily walked off the field.
They surrendered their leverage without a single shot being fired. They traded their civic voice for a digital connection.
But this demands a deeper explanation. Why? Why did the youth and the working class walk away so easily? What mechanism caused them to, like, unplug from their local reality?
Well, what do you think they were doing online instead of reading the news and getting angry about local politics?
Yeah, I mean, you might assume people were going online to read news, get smarter, become more informed citizens.
That is horribly wrong.
Right.
The internet did not deliver a golden age of truth. It used an ocean of entertainment to completely drown the truth tellers.
We are talking about the absolute destruction of the local newspaper.
Yes.
This is the casualty that nobody mourns, but it literally breaks the whole system.
Newspapers, historically, are the watchdogs of local politics. They're the ones who sit in the incredibly boring 4-hour town council meetings.
Yeah, nobody else wants to do that.
Exactly. They report on the zoning laws. They tell you which contractor got the sweetheart deal to pave the roads. They tell you who is wasting your tax money.
And the internet killed them.
It completely annihilated them.
Let's look at the timeline of this cultural murder mystery. Between 2001 and 2010, local newspaper sales plummeted by 65%.
Over half.
More than half the industry was entirely wiped out in less than a decade.
And the math from the Gavassa study is exact here, too. For every 1% increase in broadband penetration, local paper circulation fell by 2.35%.
Wow.
The internet didn't just hurt print media. It eradicated it.
But hold on, let me play the role of the tech optimist for a second here.
Sure.
Didn't those local papers just move online? Like, didn't people just stop buying the physical paper at the newsstand and start reading the local news website for free?
That is the great myth of the digital transition.
Okay.
No, they didn't. You have to look at the mechanics of newspaper revenue. Print newspapers survived on local advertising.
Right. The local car dealership, the local grocery store, classified ads.
Exactly. When the internet arrived, platforms like Google and Craigslist just devoured that local advertising monopoly.
Oh, that makes sense.
The digital pennies a local paper made from banner ads could never replace the print dollars they lost.
So the business model just completely collapsed.
It died. The network didn't replace the local paper with better local online news. The financial engine died. The journalists were fired.
The watchdogs were removed from their posts.
Yes. And what filled the void? Infinite entertainment.
The local news died because it just couldn't compete with the global dopamine machine.
Exactly.
But why did this affect the working class so much more than the elites? I mean, doesn't everyone love entertainment?
They do.
Right. A CEO with a master's degree watches funny videos on their phone just like a factory worker does.
They absolutely do. Everyone is holding the exact same smartphone. So why do only the lower income and lower education groups suffer the political consequences?
Yeah, why?
Because the way information is distributed to our brains has created a suffocating caste system. Sociologists refer to this dynamic through the lens of cognitive bandwidth. Let's call it cognitive folding.
Cognitive folding. Okay, explain the mechanics of this. Because it feels like a form of intellectual claustrophobia where we are building invisible walls with algorithms.
To understand cognitive folding, you have to look at how different groups actually use the internet under pressure.
Yeah.
Having a laptop does not make you equal.
Right.
It is entirely about the cognitive state you are in when you type into the search bar. The researchers found that college-educated people are 4 times more likely to read political information online than people with only a high school education.
4 times more likely. That is a massive behavioral gap.
Yes, and young people are at the absolute bottom of the chart for seeking out political news online.
But why does this happen?
It is not about intelligence. It is about exhaustion and cognitive training. If you have a university degree, you have been trained for 4 years to sift through information, to find data, to analyze texts. Navigating the chaotic internet for news is just less cognitively taxing for you.
So it's easier. And if you are working a grueling physical job or, working 3 part-time gigs just to make rent.
Exactly. Your cognitive bandwidth is completely depleted by the end of the day. When you finally sit down and open your phone, your brain demands dopamine recovery.
It demands an escape.
Yes. It does not want to read a dense, confusing PDF about the local zoning board's new tax initiative. And the algorithms know this. They feed the exhausted worker pure, frictionless entertainment.
So the digital divide isn't about who owns the hardware anymore.
No.
That was the 1990s definition of the digital divide. The modern digital divide is about how the elite use the device as a tool to maintain their power and navigate the system, while the masses use it as a toy to escape a reality they feel they can't control.
The masses are literally amusing themselves into absolute irrelevance.
Wow. So let's look at the battlefield now. The watchdogs are dead, the local papers are gone, the masses are completely distracted by infinite entertainment, and their cognitive bandwidth is tapped out.
Right. What do the politicians do in this new environment?
Well, when the media dies, an incredibly dangerous byproduct is born. Today's rulers never have to worry about being overthrown again. We enter a closed loop of power.
A closed loop. It is claustrophobic, it's unchecked power, it is the literal death of the underdog.
It really is.
Walk me through the mechanics of this closed loop.
The data explicitly shows how broadband destroyed political challengers. Think about the mechanics of a local election. If you want to unseat an incumbent politician like a mayor, a council member, you need one thing above all else: exposure.
Right, you need people to know your name, your face, and your policies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you need a local newspaper to write an article about you. A headline that says, "Local business owner challenges incumbent mayor on pothole failures."
Yeah.
But because the local papers died, new challengers have zero ways to get that exposure. They cannot break through the noise of the infinite entertainment machine.
They can't afford to run targeted digital ads that compete with massive corporate budgets. They're silenced before they even speak.
It's like a boxing match where the reigning champion gets a massive spotlight and the challenger is forced to fight in pitch black darkness.
That's a perfect analogy.
Of course, the champ wins every time.
And the voters who do show up, lacking any real localized information because their paper is dead, they default to the path of least resistance.
They just vote for whoever they recognize.
Exactly. They walk into the voting booth and blindly check the box next to the only name they know: the incumbent.
Wow.
The internet incredibly undeniably fortified the establishment.
So the incumbents are safe. They have a massive digital moat around their castle. They don't have to campaign as hard. They don't have to worry about an investigative journalist exposing a scandal in the Sunday edition.
Yep.
So if the pressure is completely off, how do they change the way they spend the people's money?
This is where we see a massive, unexpected twist in the data. Because if the bottom tier of society stops voting, what do politicians do?
Right.
We established earlier that politicians are the most brutally rational creatures on Earth. They instantly reroute the money. The government actually shrinks.
Wait, shrinks. This is a cynical reality. It reveals the purely mechanical, emotionless nature of government spending.
It does.
We always think of government growth or shrinkage as this big ideological battle. But you're saying it's just a math equation based on threats.
There is a direct mathematical link between broadband adoption, public apathy, and government budgets. The study found that for every 1% increase in broadband, local government per capita spending dropped by 0.26%.
Okay.
And local taxes dropped by 0.29%.
The government got smaller. But not because it suddenly became hyper-efficient.
No.
And not because of some grand ideological victory for small government advocates. It got smaller simply because the threat of the everyday voter vanished.
The politicians looked out at their town and realized nobody was watching.
Yeah.
The pressure was off.
That's insane.
They didn't need to spend as much money to buy the loyalty of the broad working class voter base because those voters weren't showing up anyway.
So the overall budget was slashed, the taxes were cut. But let's dig into the anatomy of a budget cut.
Let's do it.
If you are a politician cutting a budget, you don't just cut everything equally by 5%, right? You cut strategically.
Highly strategically.
Where exactly did the axe fall?
When the budget gets chopped, whose neck is on the chopping block? The data proves that political optimization is precise, targeted, and utterly cold-blooded. This is a concept we can call cruel benefit harvesting.
Cruel benefit harvesting. Unpack that concept for me. And let's be very clear here for you listening. We are remaining strictly impartial.
Absolutely.
We are not judging the morality of these local UK politicians. We are simply looking at the pure calculated math of political survival. So how does benefit harvesting work?
A local budget is a finite pie. You have competing interests demanding slices of that pie. When the politicians realized they could shrink the pie to lower taxes, they had to decide which slices to eliminate.
Right.
The massive cuts landed directly heavily on social housing and social services.
The exact programs relied upon by the low-income, low-education voters.
Precisely. The exact demographic that stopped showing up to vote because their cognitive bandwidth was hijacked by the internet.
Wow.
The politicians simply looked at the voter rolls. They saw the working class had vanished from the polling stations. So, running their coal survival algorithm, They took an axe to the lifelines of the absent voters.
But what about other parts of the budget? What about education spending? Because schools are usually the biggest expense for a local council.
Well, spending on education is heavily guarded by high-income, high-education voters.
Right.
Those parents have the time, the resources, and the cognitive bandwidth to organize. They're the voters who kept reading the news online. They're the ones who kept showing up to vote.
And as a result,
The education budget survived the era of broadband without a single scratch.
the logic of a politician is brutally, terrifyingly simple. If you do not show it to the ballot box, I am taking your cheese. If you plug into the digital matrix and tune out of your local reality, I'm going to empty your wallet to lower the taxes of the people who actually bother to vote.
It is the ultimate invisible tax on distraction.
Yeah.
You pay for your free entertainment with your social safety net.
This is deeply unsettling. But this isn't just a story about some local councils in the UK, is it?
No, not at all.
This isn't just about British potholes and housing budgets from 2010. We have to zoom out. This data set is the blueprint for the entire modern world.
Yes.
We are looking at the political metaphor of technology.
When you zoom out to the macro level, you synthesize these hyperlocal findings into a grand theory of modern power. We are witnessing a silent global reshuffling of the human class system.
It's a grand-scale global awakening to the true nature of our digital reality. How does this data extrapolate to the rest of the world?
Well, the initial premise of the internet was unity. It was supposed to bring the global working class together.
Right, the global village.
But the reality is that fragmented information destroys the ability of grassroots movements to organize. You cannot build a cohesive coalition of the working class if half of them are infinitely scrolling TikTok and the other half are arguing on Twitter about celebrity scandals.
That's a great point.
Infinite entertainment strips away the critical thinking and the collective focus of the masses.
The technological revolution didn't flatten the world. It didn't make us all equals. It became a super weapon for the elite class to fortify their castle.
Yes. They gave us endless frictionless toys so we would stop looking at the financial ledger.
And if we connect this dynamic to the bigger picture, we have to ask a fundamental historical question. Has this ever happened before?
It has.
Is this pacification unique to the Silicon Age?
No. History is a loop. The hardware changes, but human nature remains completely static.
We just have to look back a few thousand years to see this exact same script play out.
2,000 years ago, the rulers of the world discovered this exact same ultimate secret to controlling the masses.
We are looking at the ghosts of history, staring back at us from the data.
The parallel between this UK broadband study and the ancient Roman Empire is eerie. I mean, it is the exact same socio-political mechanism.
Walk us through the Roman tactic. How did they achieve this without, fiber optics?
In late Roman Empire, the rulers were terrified of the mob.
Yeah.
The working class of Rome, the plebeians, were massive in number.
Right.
The elites knew that if the mob ever unified and revolted, the ruling class was finished. So the emperors instituted a systemic policy known as bread and circuses.
Panem circenses.
Exactly. They provided free, state-subsidized wheat to the citizens to keep them from starving.
Hmm.
And crucially, they built massive state-of-the-art arenas like the Colosseum.
Okay.
They staged endless, violent, spectacular gladiator games, chariot races, displays of exotic animals.
Just endless entertainment.
Yes. The masses were so entirely consumed by the free entertainment and so pacified by the free food that they completely abandoned their civic duties.
They experienced a sort of voluntary disenfranchisement.
Precisely. They gladly traded their political power, their right to self-govern, and their leverage over the elites for a front-row seat at the circus.
As long as the games were playing, the emperors could rule with absolute impunity.
Exactly.
Here is where it gets incredibly profound. The ancient Colosseum and the glowing screen of your smartphone are the exact same mechanism.
They really are.
Ancient gladiator games and modern algorithm-driven feeds achieve the exact same civic lobotomy. We traded our leverage for dopamine.
We sold our political birthright for a faster broadband connection.
The Romans pacified a city with blood sports. Modern elites pacified the globe with social media algorithms.
The technology evolved, but the vulnerability in the human brain remained exactly the same.
But this brings us to the ultimate interrogation of our era. Today, we are staring at data from a decade ago.
Right.
We are talking about the early days of broadband. We're talking about copper wires damaged by rain. We are talking about the clumsy early iterations of Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah, the early days.
Yet, Looking at this old data feels like we are looking directly into the crystal ball of humanity's fate.
That is the haunting, lingering dread of this entire deep dive. I mean, the apathy, the loss of power, the shrinking of local resources, the cruel benefit harvesting targeting the working class, all of this was caused by a basic broadband copper wire and primitive internet entertainment.
It was caused by a system that wasn't even fully optimized yet.
Exactly.
Now, think about the timeline we are standing on today. We are standing on the very edge of the artificial intelligence era.
Oh, it's a whole new game.
We aren't dealing with copper wires and basic social media feeds anymore. We are dealing with super algorithms that know our desires better than we know them ourselves.
They have mapped our psychology.
They know exactly, to the microsecond, how to pacify us.
The algorithms of tomorrow will make the distraction of the 2010 internet look like a child's toy. The pacification will be completely frictionless, perfectly tailored, and infinitely engaging.
If a slow, rain-damaged internet connection stripped away our political power 10 years ago, in the age of artificial intelligence, are we about to repeat the history of human exploitation in a way that is entirely invisible and completely irreversible?
It's a terrifying question.
Imagine that diagnostic X-ray from the very beginning. We wanted a clear picture of what was broken in our society. Well, the picture is clear. We are the ones who are broken, and we paid for the machine that broke us.
The leverage is gone, and the screen is still glowing.
Something for you to think about next time you reach for your phone. Thank you for joining us on this intense exploration of the source material. We will see you on the next deep dive.